afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for the EFL Transfer Zone show for you this afternoon. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of footballleagueworld.co.uk, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ben Wignall, a fellow colleague of mine here on the website. Ben, how are you getting on this afternoon, mate? You coping with the heat?
Yeah, it's all good today in the sunny north. It's very cool. It's the heat wave that's coming on at the weekend that I'm worried about. And just like the weather, the transfer window's hotted up, isn't it? Some big players moving for big fees this week, and it seems like it's only going to get busier when it comes to championship players potentially moving around.
Yeah, it's been an incredibly busy week for us here at Football League World this week in particular. Lots of teams concluding their business with the season just over 2 weeks away now. Friday, the 29th of July, the big kickoff of the EFL season. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, so please do get yourself in the comments. We want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about an array of done deals and transfer rumours on this afternoon's show. As we always sort of say on this EFL Transfer Zone show, we simply haven't got the time to get through every single one, but we try our very best. Right, let's get straight into it. So one of the summer's long-running transfer sagas came to an end yesterday as Brentford completed the signing of Keane Lewis Potter from Hull City. The fee is reported to be in the region of £16 million, rising to £20 million. Lewis Potter has been a shining light in the Sky Bet Championship over the last couple of seasons. 25 league goals he scored over the last 2 seasons for the Tigers. Only 21 years old. He's now set to join Thomas Frank's Brentford side. Ben, let's come to you first. What do you make of this from a Brentford perspective? Good signing for the Bees?
I think it is, yeah. For a 21-year-old who's scored 12 goals last season in the Championship, he's quite clearly only going to get better. And I think Brentford are probably one of the only clubs that Lewis Potter probably slots into their starting 11 straight away. I think with some of the other clubs linked, he might have taken a bit of time to improve, and he'd probably be playing off the bench first. But I think in a front three of him, Ivan Toney, and Brian and Buemo, that's a very, very solid top flight front three. It's a very exciting one as well. Obviously, he might not end up being able to step up for a good year or two. You never know what the kind of step up's going to do for him. But from what we've seen of Lewis Potter in the last 12 months, even at League One level as well, he's been very exciting, and you can see why Brentford have shelled out 16 million, rising to 20 for him.
Yeah, very versatile player as well in the final third. Can operate on the left or on the right or centrally, so gives Thomas Frank lots of options up front. Let's just touch on this then from a Hull City perspective. Obviously a massive blow for the club, losing arguably their most star player. The Tigers have been quite busy though in the transfer window with numerous new recruits joining the side. Do you think this will affect Hull City going into next season, and do you think they'll be able to sort of fill that void left by Keane Lewis Potter?
I don't think it'll affect them too much. Obviously they were still at the bottom end of the table last season, even with his goal contributions. But I think the fee that they're going to get in for Lewis Potter, they can reinvest into the team. I think they've already started doing that. I think they showed their intent pretty clearly earlier in the window when they made a bid for Scott Twine. Obviously, he ended up going to Burnley, and I think he might have been the ideal Lewis Potter replacement, cutting in from the left. But looks like they've got Dogakan Sinek coming in from Antalyaspor, who's a kind of ready-made replacement left winger, Turkey international. So he seems to be quite highly rated, and they're going to be spending a couple of £1 million on him. So I think Akron Likal, he's said that earlier in the window they wouldn't even accept 30 million for Lewis Potter. I think that was always going to be an interesting saga if it ever came to that. But I think they've done the right thing in accepting what they have. They'll probably have a cut of a potential sell on either if Lewis Potter does go on to bigger and better things, and they can focus now on replenishing the squad, which is already started to do. They've got signings that haven't been announced yet, but they look to be on the verge of happening. So I think it's probably, even with Lewis Potter departing, it's an exciting time to be a Hull fan.
Yeah, our Hull City fan pundit Ant Northgraves was was quite happy with the sort of deal, the money that they received for the player. It was a sizable sum of money, which Hull can then reinvest into that team. They've already made some really interesting signings already. Let us know in the comments what you make of Keane Lewis Potter's move to Brentford. Do you think it's a good move all round? Please do let us know. Right, let's look at some more done deals next. Go had another sizable deal in the EFL. Nathan Collins has departed Burnley to join Wolves for £20.5 million. He is now the most expensive Irishman in football history. A really massive sum there for the Burnley centre-back. Enjoyed a really impressive campaign last season in the Premier League. He has now returned to the top flight with Bruno Lage's Wolves. Ben, we've seen Burnley lose a couple of their other more senior centre-backs this summer. James Tarkowski and Ben Mee have also departed. Now they've lost Nathan Collins. Do you think this is a kind of a bit of a blow for Burnley, but do you think the sort of sum of money makes it fairly acceptable?
It's a tough one, I think, Burnley fans are absolutely rave about Collins, and, a few weeks ago, I think there's a lot saying that, he's been valued at 40 million and it'd be a shock if he went for anything less. But on the flip side of it, he's only played 19 Premier League games, and I think there's been a red card in there as well. And I can't see my man back to the last day of the season when he had a bit of a rush of blood to the head moment and handballed it in that against Newcastle, and that was kind of a downfall moment for Burnley in there when they got relegated. So, I think he's got a lot to learn, Collins, but from what we've seen, he's definitely, the modern day defender. He's definitely got all the attributes to be a very good top flight centre back. And I think right now in his point of career, I think 20 odd million's a good price, but I definitely think Burnley could have held out for a little bit more. I don't know if there's any add-ons in the deal, but I assume they've got a good sell-on clause in there, and I think that could be the key factor why they've accepted a deal, because if he does improve and goes to a top club in the future, they're going to profit off that, and it'll make the deal look very good in the end. But I think 20.5 million at this point in time is a pretty decent price.
Yeah, Burnley fans, get yourself in the comments. What do you make of the Nathan Collins news? He has now left your club to join Wolves for £20.5 million. Right, let's look at some more done deals. Reading have started to pick up their summer transfer business over the last week. Jeff Hendrick has arrived at the club on loan from Newcastle until the end of the season. And just about 2 hours ago, Shane Long has returned to Berkshire. He is joined on a one-year deal after being released from Southampton in the summer. The Royals did, of course, lose two of their main central midfielders this summer. Andy Rinomota departed for Cardiff and Josh Laurent moved to Stoke City. So there has been a real need to bring in new recruits in the middle of the park. Jeff Hendrick has been chosen to play in centre mid for Reading next season. Ben, let's come to you then quickly on Hendrick. Good addition for the Royals, do you think?
I think he is, yeah, and it's an area of the pitch that Reading are desperate to add to. They've lost Rinomota, Laurent, Danny Drinkwater doesn't look like he'll be coming back after his release from Chelsea. So I think, along with Tyrese Fornah, who came in earlier last week, I think this is a really, really big signing for Reading to make. He's got bags of experience, Premier League, International, and Championship as well, and he brings a lot of energy to a team, and he's chipped in with goals at the likes of Derby and Burnley as well. So I think it's some much needed experience going into the season. I think a lot of people at the minute think that Reading will struggle with the squad they've currently got, but a few more additions of the ilk of Hendrick, and the fortunes could end up rising, and people could start to see the side a little bit differently. I think he could potentially play in the number 10 role, as a kind of arriving late into the box kind of midfielder. But I think if you played in the number 10 role, you've got pretty big shoes to fill in the form of John Swift. So it's going to be hard for Reading to replace him, but I think Hendrick does bring quite a bit of experience, so it's got to be classed as a good signing considering the restrictions the club are under.
Yeah, lots of happy Reading fans in today in particular. Lots were happy with the Jeff Hendrick signing, and after signing, he scored in a pre-season friendly 2 hours after arriving at the club, which is a good impact to make straight off the bat. Let's just touch on Shane Long then, Ben. I suppose you're not a Reading fan. You don't know how much Shane Long means to Reading. He is a bit of a club legend. You only have to look at the replies and responses on the Reading Twitter account this afternoon just to see how excited most Royals fans are at this one. He is, of course, now 35. His best days are clearly behind him. But what do you make of this signing from a sort of neutral perspective for Reading? Do you think he's a player that could impact games in the Championship or not? What's your sort of stance on it?
Well, considering the ages now, it's a tough one to weigh up. But I think Paul Ince said he's not just been brought in to be a big name in the dressing room. He's going to make an impact. And, obviously he's not been the most prolific in recent years. I think he had a spell at Bournemouth as well in the Championship I think it was 2021 that he scored twice. But he's still at his age. He can still press high from the front, and that's a good trait to have as a striker. And if the club do keep Lucas João, then he's a good player to play alongside when you're going for a game and you're trying to get a goal. I'm very aware of all the how held high he is in the Reading fans. I've seen all the replies on Twitter and they're all very excited. But from a neutral perspective, obviously I don't think he's going to be a prolific scorer at this stage of his career, but I'm sure he'll be able to chip in with a few important goals throughout the season.
Yeah, any Reading fans watching this show, let us know your thoughts on the additions of Jeff Hendrick and Shane Long. Have they made you feel a little bit more optimistic about the new season? We'd love to get your thoughts. Right, we've got a few more done deals to touch upon next. Okay, deal that was concluded last week. Flynn Downs has departed Swansea City to join West Ham United. Downs enjoyed a really, really phenomenal campaign for Swansea last season. The most accurate pass from the ball in the second tier, a pass accuracy of 92.6%. Just goes to show the sort of skill set that Downs possesses. David Moyes has picked him up, though, this summer for a fee in the region of £12 million. Ben, will come to you. Is Downs a player that is good enough for the Premier League and good enough for a team like West Ham, in your view?
Well, I think that obviously Downs will be looking to prove a point, considering he's a West Ham fan, so he's got an extra point to prove there. But I think 12 months ago when he did sign for Swansea, I wouldn't have expected him to be in the Premier League at this point. He kind of he wasn't appearing every week for Ipswich. He was kind of appearing sporadically, but I think Russell Martin's definitely got the best out of him. I think midfielders do tend to, in his system, get a lot of eyes on them because they're always on the ball, they're always making things happen, and that's what Downs can do. He's a comfortable passer. He can get stuck in as well, and I think West Ham have been trying to find a kind of more long-term, more noble replacement who can, get stuck in and is a grafter, and that's definitely what Downs does. And for, I think, the rumoured fee of around £12 million, I think for a long-term noble replacement, it's pretty good business, and I think it's good business for Swansea as well. Gives them a little bit of money to play with. I don't think that'll go back into the playing squad, but at least they'll have room to manoeuvre. And I think Downs will get game time in the Premier League or in the Conference League. They need a big squad to balance both of those. So I think he'll develop very well under David Moyes. He's got a good track record of signing players from the EFL at clubs he's been at. So I think it's a good move for all parties.
Yeah, as you said, Russell Martin sort of came out and sort of justified the deal, saying they can't necessarily turn down that sort of money in Swansea's current position. £12 million is the reported fee that West Ham have paid for Flynn Downs. Let us know in the comments, any Swansea fans that are watching, what did you make of the Flynn Downs departure to West Ham? Are you happy with it? Do you think £12 million is a good sum of money to have received? Right, let's stay on the topic then of Swansea City. They completed the signing of Joe Allen. He has returned to Swansea City after his departure from Stoke City this summer. A player much like Shane Long at Reading that's sort of revered by the fans at Swansea City. They're massive fans of the player, and he has returned to South Wales. Ben, come to you. Is he the sort of player that can fill that void left by Flynn Downs, do you feel? Or are you not so sure?
I definitely think he can. He doesn't exactly fit, the new Swansea mould of bringing in young players to develop and then, potentially selling them on for a big profit. But I think you can see why they brought Alan back to the club. He's still got a lot of class despite being in his 30s, and I think it speaks volumes when our Stoke City fan pundit Ben Wignall, he really wanted him to stay at the club. I think he was at Stoke for 5 years and didn't exactly have the greatest of successes, but Alan, even though he was on a big amount of money, Ben still wanted him to stay. So I think that, speaks volumes how good of a player he was. I think he's a little bit of a similar player to Matt Grimes, who I imagine will be starting next to more than, as a kind of Flynn Downs kind of player, but he can still get stuck in. He's got a lot of quality on the ball. He keeps things ticking over, and obviously the fan base have welcomed him back with open arms. So I think it is a good signing on a free for Swansea. I can't imagine they've broken the bank wage wise to bring him back to the club. So I think all in all, it's a good addition. But I do also think they probably need to look at a younger player to come in as well. Especially with Liam Walsh's recent injury. I think he's ruptured his Achilles, so he'll be out for a while. So that's a kind of an area that they need to address, probably bringing a younger kind of Flynn Downs replacement from somewhere.
Yeah, I suppose Joe Allen, a player that you'd imagine would fit quite nicely into Russell Martin's style of play, the possession-based sort of philosophy that we saw emerge last season under Martin. Like you say, very comfortable on the ball, impressive passing skill sets, so should fit in quite nicely. Right, let's just touch on one more done deal that certainly caught the eye. Barnsley have completed the signing of Nikicadden after his from a fantastic season for Forest Green Rovers last year. He's got 10 goals and 22 assists in his 87 appearances for FGR since arriving at the club. A left-sided player that can play in left midfield, but was mainly utilised as a left wing-back under Rob Edwards at FGR last season as they romped to the League Two title. Ben, this was a player that was linked with a lot of Championship sides, but Barnsley in League One have picked him up. It seems like a bit of a coup to me. What do you make of this one?
I think you've described it perfectly there. It is a coup for Barnsley. Championship clubs were apparently talking to Cadden, so I think for a player with 19 goal contributions for Forest Green last season, I half expected him to follow Kane Wilson to the Championship, but I think in a Barnsley team that will probably be very attacking next season, they'll definitely have a squad capable of challenging for automatic promotion from League One. I think it'll suit Cadden down to the ground. Obviously, they'll have to get a few new strikers after losing Morris and Woodrow to kind of get on the end of his crosses, which have kind of proved deadly from set pieces and open play for Forest Green. But I think with Michael Duff probably going for the 3-5-2 again, it's a system that Cadden's used to playing under Rob Edwards at Forest Green, so he should seamlessly slot in there and he should probably be one of the better, if not best, wing back in the league if he can contribute as much as he did to Forest Green as he can for Barnsley.
Yeah, certainly an exciting signing from a Tykes perspective. Any Barnsley fans watching this, get yourself in a comment. Are you happy with Nikicadden's arrival at Oakwell? Certainly a transfer that stood out in League One over the last week. Right, let's touch on some transfer rumours across the EFL next. Right, we're going to start off with a Football League World exclusive. Sources today confirmed to us that interest in Marcus Tavernier at Middlesbrough is growing. Leicester, Forest, Everton and AFC Bournemouth are all readying a move for the midfielder at Middlesbrough. Borough are kind of demanding a fee in the region of £10 million for the player. Ben, this is a player we've spoken about lots on EFL Transfer Zone over the last few weeks/months. A player very much in demand. What do you make of this new interest that we've sort of found out today? Are these sort of clubs players, these sort of clubs, an ideal move for someone like Marcus Tavernier? Do you see him fitting into any of these clubs in particular?
I think from the clubs mentioned, I can't really see him fitting into maybe an Everton or Leicester. I think Leicester have got quite a few good central and attacking midfielders. I can't see him getting ahead of a Maddison or a Tielemans if he stays, or even Keenan Dewsbury Hall, who after his EFL loan moves has seemingly, come into the first team picture under Brendan Rodgers. And I think Everton as well will end up getting Morgan Gibbs-White, so I can't see Tavernier fitting in those two teams. I think Forest, as we'll touch on a bit, they're looking at Lewis O'Brien, so again, Tavernier, will he fit in there? I'm not particularly sure. He's a similar player to O'Brien, left-footed, likes to attack, so couldn't see him getting much game time there. But I think the one team that have been linked that he could fit in pretty well to is Bournemouth. They haven't been very active currently in the transfer market, and they probably in danger of getting left behind by some of the clubs, especially when you see what Forest are doing. So I could see them making a decent bid for Tavernier. He definitely had a bit more creativity to the midfield, probably playing alongside, Philip Billing gives him a different dynamic, and he's got versatility as well. He can play wing back, winger. So I think they'd probably be the best fit right now, but you could imagine that they could get priced out if Bury, kind of stand firm and want in excess of 10 million to Tavernier. It's a big price, and he's not the most consistent in terms of goal contributions, but it's definitely something he can improve on. But he's definitely got a lot of tangibles to be a good Premier League player in the future. And out of those four teams, I can see Bournemouth being the biggest suitors for him.
Yeah, of them linked clubs, Bournemouth have been long-standing admirers of Marcus Tavernier. They have tabled a couple of offers to Borough over the last few months, but they haven't been accepted as of yet. But as we understand it today, Leicester, Forest and Everton have joined Bournemouth in the race to sign Marcus Tavernier. Got an annoying fly there, Ben. Wants to get involved in the EFL transfer zone today. Right, let's touch on some more transfer rumours next. Just a reminder, we are broadcasting live. Get yourself in the comments. We want to hear from you. The future of Ben Brereton Diaz continues to be a hot topic of debate in the Sky Bet Championship. He is still a Blackburn Rovers player as we approach the new season. But Leeds United have reportedly sent scouts to watch the player in a recent pre-season friendly. This Leeds United interest is nothing new. He has been linked with a move to Ellen Road a handful of times over the past few months. He was reportedly in advanced talks with Salernitana in Italy, if I pronounced that right. But that deal fell through in the end. But let's touch on the Leeds interest then, Ben. A player that, we know what he's capable of, had a fantastic season last year for Rovers. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think he'd be a good signing for Jesse Marsh's Leeds?
I'm a bit conflicted with this one. Obviously we all know what he did last season after his Chile exploits in the summer. He scored 20 goals before 2021 was out. But I think when you look at his form in 2022, after even when he wasn't injured, it wasn't great. I think he only scored twice between the start of the year and the end of the season. So I think a few clubs might be looking at that and thinking the first half of last season was potentially a purple patch, and I would have expected the interest to have been firmed up by now by a few clubs, but it doesn't seem to be the case. There doesn't seem to be any bids right now. But last season, Blackburn were in a similar position. They had Adam Armstrong with a year left on his contract, and I think it was only the middle of August where they decided got a bid in from Southampton and ended up selling him. As for Leeds, I think if they're planning on getting him as a striker, then he's not played that much there for Blackburn. He's always really been playing off the left, and I think Leeds have brought in a lad from Feyenoord, I think Siesta, to replace Rafinha and play there with Harrison on the other wing. So I think if he's being brought in as a winger, his game time might be restricted, but up front there's definitely a void to be filled. Bamford wasn't fit that much last season, and he could get game time there, but I'm not sure about him as an out-and-out striker in the Premier League. It's a big risk for someone who's only had one good season in his career. But I imagine that as the transfer window gets closer to ending in August, the interest might ramp up and Blackburn might end up accepting a bid less than the value they want right now. But I think in Leeds' point of view, they could probably do a little bit better. But if you can get him for a bit of a cheaper fee that's been bandied about at the minute, it could be a risk worth taking.
Yeah, you get the feeling that Brereton Diaz saga is going to rumble on for a couple more weeks as interest sort of mounts in the Chilean international. Blackburn fans, let us know in the comments, what do you make of Brereton Diaz's current situation? Do you expect him to depart before the start of the new 22-23 season? Right, let's move over to West Bromwich Albion. They've been fairly active in this summer transfer window, and they're looking to re-sign one of their former loan players. OK Yusuklu is being earmarked for a transfer to the Hawthorns. The Baggies are in advanced talks to sign the player on a free transfer. He's had a kind of not the best last few years at Celta Vigo. He has now been released from the Spanish club. And Steve Bruce's West Brom are looking to bring the central midfielder back into the club. He was impressive in West Brom's last Premier League season, the 2019-20 season. He impressed in the middle of the park for the Baggies. Ben, let's just come to you on this one. Lots of West Brom fans quite excited about the prospect of Yusuklu coming back to the Midlands club. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, well, I think he's a big upgrade on Jet Livermore. You know, he's got the age on his side. I think he's 28 now, and Livermore's in his 30s, so it's kind of fresher legs for that holding midfield role. And you know, on a free transfer, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer for West Brom to pursue it. I know Steve Bruce did deny it in the recent weeks, but it does look to be coming off. He was pretty decent for West Brom when they were in the Premier League. He's a ball winner. He likes to break up play, and he's a player that could probably, you know, free up the likes of John Swift to be more creative going forward in the middle. So I think if you can do it in the Premier League, there's no reason why you can't do it in the Championship, despite not featuring much in the last year. So I think on a free transfer, like I said, it's a bit of a no-brainer for West Brom.
Yeah, if the financials are right in terms of wages, this deal looks like a good prospect for West Bromwich Albion ahead of the new season. Lots of fans pleased to see them being linked with Yusuklu once again. Baggies fans, get yourself in the live chat, in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts on this particular one. Right, we've got a couple more rumours to tie up before we wrap up the show. Nottingham Forest remain interested in Huddersfield Town's Lewis O'Brien. They have reportedly tabled an offer in the region of £9 million. However, Huddersfield have rebuffed that offer. They want a fee more near £10 million to £11 million is what we're hearing for that one. It's quite clear that Steve Cooper is a fan of O'Brien. This interest has been quite long-standing over the last couple of weeks. Ben, do you see this one getting done over the next week or so?
I think so, yeah. If you're only haggling over a couple of £1 million, I can see it happening. And on the transfer show after the playoff final, when Forest played Huddersfield, I did say to Alfie that we were talking about the Leeds interest in O'Brien, and I said, he asked me if any other clubs should be looking at O'Brien, and I did say Forest, so I'm glad I've seen we got something right. It must have been listening to the show. I think he would offer balance in that midfield. You know, they've got a vacancy there after James Garner went back to Man United to try and fight for his place. So they need someone there next to Ryan Yates. He's energetic, he can tackle, he's quite creative as well. So you'd obviously have to make that step up to the Premier League. Like quite a few of the players will have to prove themselves, but I don't see why I can't do that on the trajectory he's been on in the last few years. And you know, Huddersfield are well within the rights to hold out for what fee they want. I think there's reports that there is a transfer, clause in there, a release clause, but I think it will get done in the end. Forest have been very aggressive in the transfer market so far this summer, and I think the allure of the Premier League will be enough to get O'Brien over the line.
Yeah, Ryan Yates also suffering an injury, which might keep him out for the next month, will possibly accelerate this deal. There will be a need to add in central areas at the City ground as they embark on the Premier League season. Right, Forest fans / Huddersfield fans, let us know your thoughts on the Lewis O'Brien situation. Do you expect this deal to be concluded in the next week or so? We'd love to get your thoughts. Right, one more transfer rumour for you next. Aaron Mooy is a free agent. Huddersfield fans will remember him fondly during his time at the John Smith Stadium a few seasons ago. He was part of that Terriers team that secured promotion to the Premier League back in 2017. He played a really key part for David Wagner's promotion-winning side. He also impressed in the Premier League. He spent the last season or so out in China with Shanghai Port. He has now been released from the club, and that has sparked interest from a handful of Championship sides. Swansea, Middlesbrough and Birmingham are a number of teams interested in Aaron Mooy in this summer transfer window. He is now 31 years old, but you'd imagine he's still got the quality to ply his trade in the second tier. Ben, what do you make of this one? Do you think Aaron Mooy is someone that could fit into the aforementioned Championship clubs that I've just said?
I think he can still cut it. He's 31 years old now. He's still got a few years left in the legs, I think, and he's featured, in the Premier League for Huddersfield and Brereton. So I don't think there's any reason why you can't still do it in the Championship. Of the clubs mentioned, I'm not sure he'd start at both Middlesbrough and Swansea. I think obviously Swansea brought in Joe Allen, and I think they need a younger midfielder now, not another experienced head. And also Middlesbrough have kind of got a lot of depth in the middle of the park. They've got a fellow Aussie and Riley McGree backing up the likes of Crooks and Tavernier. So I think they're well stocked in that position. But I think Birmingham are probably a club, despite the off-field shenanigans, we don't know who's getting a takeover or not, they could really do with a creative midfielder. Obviously, they've lost Ivan Sunjic to Hertha Berlin. He's a completely different kind of midfielder, but I think they could definitely do with someone who can kind of unlock a defence, and I think Mooy would fit that kind of player they're after. I don't know where they're at in terms of bringing players in Birmingham with the off-field situation, but I think if they can start getting some deals over the line, then Mooy would be a really good fit for them.
Yeah, I imagine a lot will come down to wages with this Aaron Mooy deal, given I'd imagine his wages out in China were fairly lofty. You'd imagine he'll have to take some sort of price cut in terms of his wages if he is to move back to England and back to the Sky Bet Championship. Right, well, there we go. That is Aaron Mooy, wanted by Swansea, Middlesbrough and Birmingham City. Right, well, that concludes today's EFL Transfer Zone show here on Football League World TV. Ben, thanks for joining me this afternoon, mate. And thanks to everyone that tuned in to watch the show. It's always great to have you involved with us. If you're watching this on repeat on YouTube, please do stick a like in below this video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. We've got so much more exciting content coming out on Football League World TV over the coming weeks. As the season draws ever closer. Tomorrow, we're going to be taking a look at Stoke City and their promotion credentials next season. That kicks off at 11 a.m. tomorrow here on the channel. And then at 2:30, we're going to be looking at Gary Rowett and his Millwall side. Are they automatic promotion dark horses in the Championship for next season? So plenty of content to get stuck into. But from myself and Ben, we shall see you soon.